know what that means. Truckers, travelers, and talkers. Welcome to Nemo Nation, broadcasting live from Fastport Studios in New Orleans with your host, the legendary Dave Nemo, and your favorite co-pilot, Jimmy Mack.
Jimmy Mack in the house. Dave Nemo just going to be here for a few moments to thank Bruce Mallinson and Eric Moser for sticking around and being part of the Pittsburgh Power Pitstop on this first. Well, we got a lot of stuff to work out here, but man, it has been a pretty darn terrific first day on the air, has it not, Dave Nemo?
It has been really exciting, completely new. We've cut ribbons to rooms we didn't even know existed.
By the way, I'm telling Dre, if you're going to talk on the phone and your mic, you got to pick one. Hey, man, good morning, by the way. Good morning to everybody. We're going to see if something's working here, by the way, Dre. We figured out a lot of stuff. I can't tell you. I don't know how Dre's kept up today, Dave. I don't know how he's done it. There is so much going on here. He's literally been on the phone with the folks in Orlando. He's been on the phone with Tara over in Clarksville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. He's been on the phone with everybody calling in. He has somehow managed to make this a complete balance. I don't know how. So we're going to try something here. Bruce, I need you to say good morning. No good morning. I don't hear him. Eric, I need you to say good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
I'm good. So we have a Bruce problem? We have a Bruce problem. We're going to work this out here. Eric, so what's happening as we kind of figure out and rumble, bumble, and stumble our way through this? We're going to work out one more thing today technically. You're going to be riding alone on this one, it looks like, because we have a double phone problem right now that it'll take us like a half an hour after the show to work it out. Can you ride solo? Can you do it?
Oh, absolutely, but not to add to your troubles, but I can barely hear you on my end, too.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to... well, the thing is, though, is that everybody...
I hear you fine.
Here's the thing, is we can hear you fine, and the
That's
better,
all that matters.
And the better news is the fact that everybody else now tells us that we're actually matching your volume. We're still working out all these kinks. We'll probably get most of them worked out today. It's good to have you. Welcome aboard. How do I sound now? A little better?
It's still pretty soft, but I can hear you. I can make it out.
Dre, do we have anybody else on the phone line right now? Okay. All right, Eric, by the way, Dave just wanted to say thank you for joining us and being part of the first Nemo Nation with the first Pittsburgh Power Pitstop joining us this morning. So I'll let Dave take over for a second, and then you and I will jump in.
Well, you know, this is kind of an interesting leap into the history book again, Eric and Bruce, because we still have the first sponsor that we ever had going back to the early 70s. It was the Union 76 truck stop in Slidell, Louisiana, which of course became a TA, and TA nationwide, TA Petro, are still sponsors, and you are the first full sponsor that we've had on our new platform here, which is 33 different platforms. It's like whoa. So when one door closes, another door opens, and it's like a 33-car garage bay here that just opened for us. So thanks for being part of this bit of history, guys. I mean, really.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eric, I just wanted to let Dave say thank you. Bruce won't be joining us this morning. We had to kind of let him go because we're still having an issue with a double phone line. But I just wanted to kind of open up before we get into today's topic. I wanted you to kind of tell your story about your involvement with Pittsburgh Power, how you ended up where you ended up. We've touched on it a little bit, but since we're talking origin stories, we've been talking them all morning long with Dave and about the old days of the road gang and all that stuff. How do you end up in your seat?
Actually, that's kind of ironic that you brought this up because I was actually going to call today's episode New Beginnings.
Fantastic.
For your show and for the engines out there, because we're going to talk about in-frame and out of frames. So it's going to be a new beginning on your engine. But mine was a new beginning here also. It was actually tomorrow will be 15 years since I've been with the company. It was June 10th, 2010. And my background has always been automotive, very, very strong based in it. My father had a used car. Well, he had a new International Scout dealership for all 18 years that they made them. And then we turned it into a used car lot after that. So cars have always been my niche. I literally started driving cars when I was 8 years old on my dad's car lot. and my mom and dad's house was actually connected to the property, so I would actually drive like about half a mile each way back and forth to my mom's house just where I could barely see over the steering wheel. And when I was 9 years old, I started driving a stick shift, and my dad was like beside himself when he saw me pull up to the building with it, and he was going to take me to school, and here I pulled up in a 5-speed manual, and it didn't hit him till we were halfway to school, and he said, "Wait a minute, this is a stick. How did you drive that?" I said, "Well, I watched you. I watched you and your legs and your feet and your hands. I just paid attention." And 9 years old, I got to pick whatever car I wanted for my dad to take me to school every day. That was like winning the lottery, like every day, because I was so into cars and trucks and just anything with an engine. But fast forward a few years after that, after I was 9, I was actually an electrician for a local beer bottling manufacturer. They made the machines that did silk screening for glass bottles, like Corona and a couple other ones out there. But Modesto Brothers that owned Corona was our biggest customer. And we had a shift in the economics, I guess you could say, of it. Middle Eastern customers were diverting their contracts otherwhere, and there was a bunch of layoffs. So I was actually laid off. I just bought my Harley. I had an Ultra Classic that I was redoing, and I decided that this was February of 2010, and I decided I'm going to go to Bike Week in Daytona. It was in March. I've never been to Bike Week, and I'm going to go. So I took a strawberry red and silver Ultra Classic and converted it into a Street Glide. It was all black with stretch saddlebags and cam change and handlebar, everything. Really dumb idea to pull at the last minute, but I did. I pulled it off, and then at the last minute, the guy I was going with backed out, so I never did go. But for the next couple months, I was doing some side jobs, some more paint work and stuff, and my wife is a dental hygienist. And she came home from work one day and said, I met this guy today at work. His name's Bruce Mallinson, and he wants to talk to you. And I said, well, about what? And she said, well, I think a job, but I'm not sure. And she told me the name of the company, Pittsburgh Power. And I thought, man, I've been living in this area my whole life, and I never heard of this company before. So I did a quick Google search on it and saw that they were a diesel repair shop. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. They got some nice-looking trucks and some hot rods, and I'm into hot rods. But the only thing I know about diesels is that they take the green pump at the island. I didn't know anything else about it. So I came in for an interview on June 10th, and we went through the interviewing process. And Bruce asked me some questions that I've never been asked before in an interview, but it was really where we created common ground. Instant connection, instant bond. It was like I was talking to a long-lost friend, and I've been here ever since. I literally never went home. For the next 2 weeks, I sat in Bruce's office with a tablet and a pencil, and I listened to everything that man had to say and wrote down everything I could think of, and we would discuss all the questions afterwards, and I worked my way from the sales side into the service side and now the GM. So it's been 15 years of being very blessed. I work with a great bunch of people. We get to do some really cool things here, and I talk to some amazing people out there. I meet new friends every day. And if Manny, if you're listening, you are my newest friend. I just made a good connection with him last week. We're doing an engine rebuild for him in the shop right now, an X15, and it's amazing how people get put into your life. Real quick, I met Manny at the Louisville Truck Show 2 years ago. It was my first ever Louisville Truck Show, and this gentleman walked into our booth with this really cool white hat on, and he wanted to buy some OPS sample kits and filters, and kind of beat me up over the price a little bit. We were going back and forth, bantering, and being that I'm third generation used car salesman, it's genetic. I have to play that game. So we went back and forth, and I said, all right, look, I'll give you a discount if you give me that hat. Man, that ended negotiations right then and there. Nope, deal's off the table. I'll take it. I'll pay whatever you want. The hat can't go. So we kind of joked around. The hat means a lot to him. It was sentimental. So we leave there, and I'm on my way home, and there was a really bad accident on, I want to say it was I-40, 440, whatever it was. We had a 2.5-hour detour through these little small towns, truck and trailer. It wasn't very pleasant, and my time to get home just kept getting pushed back further and further, and I just wanted to go home. And I pull into this rest stop right as the end of the detour. I walk into the mini mart to pay for the fuel, and who's standing there but Manny? So we start talking again, and then fast forward 2 more years, he calls me up, and I'm talking to this gentleman, and I'm thinking, this voice sounds really familiar, and then it hit me. This is the guy with the white hat. So we became pretty good friends over the phone. He's a really good guy, but it's just such a cool job that I have. Like, I'm very blessed and very thankful for what I do here, and it's very refreshing to get to meet new people like this and to make common friends and lifelong friends. You know, we have a lot of people here that I consider really close friends of mine. I've been very blessed. I'm very happy.
Let me ask you about the energy over there as well too, because I have I'm going to get up to your shop at some point. But when people kind of come in there, when you first went over there, what is the energy like? I mean, is the place bustling all the time? I mean, I know you have a lot of regular customers. You have a lot of people who have found out about you and therefore are kind of digging in with you. What is it like to be over there in the action at Pittsburgh Power?
Some days you're the bug, some days you're the windshield, Jimmy. No, it's positive. We have so many different, what do I want to say here, diversities of people and, backgrounds and knowledges. And when you pull them all together, you get a combined energetic atmosphere. It's actually invigorating to me, because there's sometimes we'll get a truck in here that has a certain problem that I just, can't wrap my head around. Like, how does this happen? And then there starts to be like a small crowd forming, and JR will come in from our engineering department, or Alex, and then Rock, my shop foreman, or Brian, my service guy that was our shop foreman, that he's been here for almost 40 years. A couple of the older techs, a couple of the younger techs, we all get together and have like a powwow, and we start like bannering ideas off each other, and then all of a sudden, click, it goes off. Okay, this is the issue. But it's so energetic, and the conversation is so electrifying that it makes it fun. That's what makes my day go by fast. I joke with my wife, like, I don't even look at the clock. I look at the calendar anymore. It goes by so fast, and it's so fun to do it.
Well, I'm going to tell you,
I like problem solving.
I tell you this, Eric, and right now it's happening over here. I can't tell you how much we relate. Dave actually stepped outside to make sure that he could hear both you and I clearly on the air. It turns out that Tara and him say, even though you're having a little bit of a hard time hearing me, everybody's hearing both of us, which is really groovy. Dre is on the phone trying to solve a couple of problems right now. He's in the midst of problem solving. And having everybody in person, people you like and people you trust, all kind of around you, always makes a big difference. And I can tell you this from Dre's experience. In the last couple of weeks before we made the move, I started doing shows up there. So when you called last week, I was actually in Ocean Springs with him doing the show. And having the people that you care about and that you respect and who you like working with in the same room makes all the difference. By the way, really quickly, before we shift the conversation to today's topic, thank you for indulging me, Eric. Normally we take a break here. We're not going to do that now, though. The new format demands I do other things. I do want to tell people we're broadcasting Nemo Nation live from the Fastport studios at the historic Degas House in New Orleans. Fastport solves America's toughest recruiting and workforce challenges through research, technology, and people. From registered apprenticeships to veteran readiness, learn more at fastport.com or nationalapprenticeship.org. By the way, Bruce Mallinson, very close friend with the president of Fastport, Brad Bentley, which shows you how connected all this stuff is. And please, guys, go to pittsburghpower.com and find out how they can get you back on the road and get you the trucking lifestyle that makes it worth living. Eric, new beginnings. Let's kind of shift over now and kind of unpack new beginnings for us. And what you meant by that, we'll go into more detail.
Absolutely. So today's topic I was actually going to call New Beginnings, because it's actually about engines. So today we're going to talk about in-frames versus out-of-frame rebuilds. The first thing I want to stress is something that one of my customers actually told me a long time ago, and I never forgot this. Randy Corley was one of my first customers when I started here 15 years ago. He is a gasoline hauler out of Panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. So he runs pretty much flat, warm terrain. He's streamlined for a tanker. But he bought our signature truck. which was a Peterbilt glider with a Caterpillar 6NZ in it, 18-speed transmission, 355 rear gears, and it had every single performance product on that truck that we offered. It made around 750, 800 horsepower if you turned it up all the way. It was just downright a force to be reckoned with. It was a really nice truck. I actually painted the fenders on that truck. It was a baby blue and white when I got here, and it just didn't sit well with me, so we made it a Shelby GT500, the dark blue metallic fenders, and it really just changed the whole atmosphere of the truck. But when I picked him up at the airport, I remember meeting Randy for the first time, and we were driving back in my pickup, and I asked him about, why did you buy this truck? And he said, well, I got an older truck, and I was thinking about doing an in-frame and an out-of-frame. He said, but every time I have a major engine failure, I always think about what my dad told me, and that was, you plan for an in-frame, but you prepare for an out-of-frame. And that stuck with me. 15 years later, I still tell people that when somebody calls me and says, hey, I want to get an in-frame on my truck, how much is it going to cost? What are the chances it's going to turn into an out-of-frame? And unfortunately, you just don't know that until you pull the cylinder head off and you start looking around. But that's a good saying to keep in the back of your mind. Always prepare for the worst on this stuff, because it can take a left turn at any given moment.
Eric, I want to say this really quickly. Like I said, I know what you're talking about. Most of our listeners know what you're talking about. Can you just, for the sake of what I call Trucking for Dummies 101, really distinguish between in and out?
Yeah, absolutely. So an in-frame is where we rebuild the engine in the chassis. We don't physically remove the engine block. It stays in there. We remove all of the accessories on the sides of the engine, like your fuel pump and air compressor and anything that would get in our way. The cylinder head gets removed, and then we drop the oil pan, and then we roll in new rods and main bearings on the bottom, and then we pull the pistons and the rods up through the top. The out-of-frame rebuild is whenever you remove the engine out of the chassis. So it's an out-of-frame rebuild. Now, you can also do an in-frame out of the chassis. We just did a camshaft change on a PACCAR MX-13 a few weeks ago because they use a pressed-on lobe-style camshaft. So the camshaft's actually a hollow tube, and it has pressed-on lobes, which I've never seen before until I got into the trucking industry. And two of the lobes run the two unit pumps, they call them, which are like little fuel pumps. And when those lobes spin, it, of course, throws the fuel pressure way off. So PACCAR was designed and engineered to be running in Europe. And in Europe, they run a lot of cab-over trucks, which everything on this engine is rear gear driven. So everything that's on a normal truck that you're used to seeing, if you took the engine and spun it around 180 degrees, that's how these things are. They put everything in the rear. So in a cab over, you just jack the cab up and you have all the room in the world back there, because the camshaft does have to come out of the rear of the engine. In a conventional, long-nosed Peterbilt, or this truck was actually, I think, an International, you don't have that luxury. So sometimes you have to remove the engine to do the work that right. makes more sense and more economics for the customer as well. So that would be your difference between the in-frame and the out-of-frame. Another thing I get asked a lot is, how many times can I rebuild my engine? Unfortunately, there's not a good answer. I wish I could tell people that, but I just don't have an honest answer. Now, I will say that over the years, we've seen, you can usually in-frame an engine sometimes twice. When you get up around your first 1,000,000 miles, an in-frame is definitely a good possibility. Very rarely does it become an out-of-frame. And the reason it needs to stay an in-frame versus an out-of-frame is the machine work we would have to do to the engine block. If we pull the cylinder head off and we drop the rod and main bearings out through the bottom, if there's a particular wear pattern on specifically the rod bearing or main bearings, then we know we may have a problem with the bottom end. And that's what constitutes an out-of-frame. Or the other side of that is, hey, I'm pushing like 2.5 million miles on this engine. I had it in-framed at 1.2. Now I'm getting up on another 1.2. Can we in-frame it again? And the chances are probably not. Because we have a lot of heat cycles and stress, and there's a lot of, just force on that block, and there's tiny explosions happening in every one of those cylinders over time that takes its toll on the metal. So the metal will start to get a little bit distorted. We've seen blocks that were a little bit out of level. They'll actually have like a sag to them where they'll have a dip in the middle. The most common thing, though, would be on the crankshaft, like your main bore. On the main bearings, you'll see a wear pattern to one side or the other, or maybe top to the bottom, but it's uneven. That's what we're looking for, is uneven patterns. That's a dead giveaway. So when we send an engine block over to the machine shop, the first thing they do is boil it to clean all the residual junk and rust and grease, everything off of it. And then they do a MagnaFlux testing, which MagnaFlux, if anybody's ever seen it in person, it's so fascinating to me how this works. They kind of use like a powder coating gun, and it spritzes this powder over the entire engine block, inside, out, everywhere, and it is a purplish color over everything. Then they take a black ultraviolet light and they shine it over top. And anywhere that there's a crack that you can't see with your naked eye, it turns fluorescent green. And fluorescent green to a dark, like royal purple, is completely different contrast. It sticks out like a sore thumb.
Do you realize? I want to point out something here really quickly, because I'm being a goofball because it's my first show and getting a chance to actually hang out with you. I'm so thrilled to be actually talking with Eric Moser on the phone here. A week ago, I'd have been like, "We'll see." It's kind of like it depends on rebuilding an engine. All these colors you're talking about feels like a '70s funhouse, man. I mean, we're talking about greens and purples and glows and all that stuff. I know why you guys do what you do. You're just trying to replicate haunted houses from the 1970s. It's classic stuff.
I'll hit your memory bank. If you remember the banana splits.
Oh, my God.
That's what I think of when I see like this lime green and purple with Saturday morning cartoons, watching the banana splits and Johnny Quest and Space Ghost. And, yeah, that was some good times. But this is a little bit more scientific than Saturday morning cartoons, though, but that's where we put the science to it, so you can rest assured that you're spending your money wisely and properly. The worst thing you could get would be a bill for an out-of-frame rebuild only to find out there was a crack in the block somewhere that you didn't see, with the naked eye. And that's why we use this process, because it is foolproof. So after we are assured from the machine shop that the engine is good and straight and clean, we're going to do the machine work to it. Well, we are not the machine shop. Let me rephrase that. They do a line bore, which is basically a large drill bit. In other words, is where they'll actually bolt on the main caps, which is what holds the crankshaft in there, and they'll run this great big large drill bit through it to make sure that it stays round and true. Because over time, it can get a little bit egg-shaped or eccentric and look a little bit weird, and that's where you'll pick it up on the main bearing wear patterns. And then they'll also recondition the rods if we want them to, but usually we don't in this world. In the race world, a lot of times we'll recondition the rods. In this world, we usually just buy reman rods. It's much more cost-effective and a lot more insurance on it too. So depending on the supply and demand, we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, with the COVID and the supply and demand and emissions, everything like that. But after they do that, they're going to deck surface the block, which is where they make it a true flat mating surface for the cylinder head, and then they ship it back to us. We do a clean out on the block, and then we start the reassembly process. So that's the biggest difference between in-frame and out-of-frame, is what it actually entails. There's a little bit extra labor, of course, because you're removing that, and there's extra parts. And the extra parts that you would think of would be, of course, in the engine, but the extra parts that you don't think of might be like the clutch, the front input shaft rebuild kit of a transmission. How about your engine mounts or transmission mounts or even radiator mounts? Stuff that you don't normally have access to with the engine block in the chassis. So when I do an estimate, I usually put like a $500 miscellaneous on the bottom just for the customer to see, because that, and in there it says like radiator mounts, tranny mounts, bolts, clamps, stuff that you wouldn't normally think of whenever you're trying to do a rebuild in your head, because you're thinking pistons, injectors, cylinder head. You have all the mechanical parts in your engine going around inside your engine, but you're not really thinking about what's outside too. And that's where we want to, maybe address some of those things, because it's only going to save you money in the long run because we're already there as far as the labor. So,
Eric, I'm gonna put a little bit of a break on you, because in about a minute and a half we're gonna have to actually take that break. Because by the way, we're all getting used to new formats, and I'm so thrilled that Eric could join us on the first Nemo Nation. Give us a little preview when we come back on the other side of the break where we're gonna pivot to.
Sure. So what I would like to talk about are the actual parts that are in a typical rebuild, and the differences between some of the shops out there. Some of the stuff that we do for performance-wise that sets us apart from other shops out there. The part supply that we now offer that, again, sets us apart from other shops out there. Just an overall background of why we're going in the direction that we are, because we saw the writing on the wall. We've seen a shift in the paradigm with the OE manufacturers as far as pricing and availability, and that's what I want to talk about, some specific parts and some specific numbers when we come back as well.
We are going to come back on the other side of this also with a tribute to a friend of not only Radio Nemo, but a friend of Pittsburgh Power, who actually passed away on June the 3rd. We'll be giving her a bit of a shout out. A real friend to everybody out there, and her husband, who is still with us. We want to make sure that he is getting taken care of and loved out there. That's what we do here. We're family over here. As Eric talked about at Pittsburgh Power, over here at Radio Nemo of North America, we are... we're friends to all of you guys, and we hope you guys will continue to call in over the course. You can even call in now. If you just want to call in and tell Eric and I, hi, how you doing? Let us know that things are going well, that you're actually in the feed. We'd love to hear from you. That would be awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll talk soon on the other side of this. Go to PittsburghPower.com with this music playing. We'll be right back. Want to make your diesel engine cleaner and more efficient? Pittsburgh Power's Max Mileage Fuel Catalyst can reduce your soot output by 60% and increase your thermal efficiency. Max Mileage keeps your engine and emission systems functioning at its best. Less soot means a longer engine and emission component life, drastically fewer regens, and better performance. Take the first step towards a cleaner, more efficient ride. Visit PittsburghPower.com and order your Max Mileage Fuel Catalyst today. Drive cleaner, drive smarter.
The Joshua Chamberlain Society is unlike any other veterans organization. It's truly a family, and I know that firsthand from working with them myself. Their mission is to make wounded veterans and families of deceased veterans feel the support and appreciation of their community for life. Our veterans' injuries are permanent, and so is the JCS support. From monetary assistance like paying utility bills or college funds to helping our heroes find purpose, JCS is a family that surrounds and supports the heroes who have sacrificed so much. Learn more and make your donation at chamberlainsociety.org. That's chamberlainsociety.org.
Okay, you've heard the horror stories of how folks have lost their life savings when the market tanks. Is there a way to invest and make money without risk? Believe it or not, yes. Since 1995, Americans who cannot afford to lose their investments have used fixed index annuities. You get guaranteed income and protection from market downturns. It's a win-win for you and your future. To learn more, dial pound 250. Use the keyword Truckers Wealth to get in touch with them today.
Did you know it's extremely easy to join the Wreaths Across America mission to remember our fallen heroes, while at the same time honoring those who are currently serving our country and their families? Plus, you're helping to teach our younger generation about the value of freedom. With just one $17 donation to Wreaths Across America, you're sponsoring a fresh Maine Balsam Remembrance Wreath. They've really become a symbol of America's respect for those who bravely served and are no longer with us. To sponsor your wreath, just visit wreathsacrossamerica.org. That's wreathsacrossamerica.org.
I've been waiting to come in on this one. Back to the the talk that drives America. This is Nemo Nation. Let's rejoin Dave and Jimmy live from Fastport Studios.
Drives America. I don't want to drive America. Have you hung out with America recently? It's like a drunken sailor on a spending binge. Hey guys, head over to PittsburghPower.com and check them out over there. Hey, we want to take a moment here as Eric Moser joins us because he's friends with these cats too. We're friends with them. Kim Hemerson passed away peacefully with Al at her bedside. Astro Boy and skater. June 3rd. Just recently. She was born on July 6th of 1961 to James and Leda. She grew up in Humboldt, Iowa, and graduated in 1979 from Humboldt High School. She married Al on May 18th of 85. Kim worked at G&H Motor Parts during high school until the business was sold in 99. She then became a secretary dispatch for their farming trucking business. She and Al traveled the United States in the truck until her hospitalization. She enjoyed a hobby of creating photo memory books and was a member of the Trucker Buddy program for over 10 years. She and Al were named Trucker Buddies of the Month in 2008 and awarded the Trucker Buddy International Award in 2017. Many former students kept in contact with Kim into their adult years. She is preceded in death by her parents and sister-in-law, Angie. She's survived by, of course, Al, her service dog, Tinsley, stepson, Russ, and sisters, Cindy and Terry, brother Joe, as well as nieces and nephews. I agree with this sentiment. She will be missed by friends and truck drivers from across the United States. A celebration of life will take place at a later date, yet to be determined. In lieu of flowers, of course, why are we not shocked? Donations can be made to the St. Christopher Fund that helps truck drivers in need. Contributions can be sent to St. Christopher Fund, P.O. Box 30763, Knoxville, Tennessee 37930, or go to the website truckersfund.org and click the donate button at the top of the page. We will miss Kim. She was a good friend of the show, and she was one of the first people to welcome me, her and Al, with open and warm arms. From Dave, Nemo, and everybody here at Radio Nemo and Pittsburgh Power, we send our condolences. I had to get that in, Eric, and of course Dre's got a comment he would like to make really quickly as well, too.
Well, I want to let everybody just be able to jump back in the conversation, and we have a few more callers here as well, but man, she will be greatly missed. That was someone that I talked to my fair share here and there on each show, but especially on the Tim Ridley Show. And that was someone that would reach out to me, and we would do our little segments together, and she was just always
the best.
She was the best. She was always intrigued. She was always completely invested. That was the word I was looking for. But at the same time, dude, she wasn't letting you slipping. She wasn't going to let you get by with anything, and she was going to give you a hard time, man. Oh, God bless.
They kept on me until their niece, who was a world-class frisbee golf player, they kept on our case until we got her on the show, man. If they were on your side, they were on your side, man.
Man, 100%, and they had your back to the very end. So do yourself a favor and donate to St. Christopher Fund. And Astro Boy, we love you, man, and hope
we
to
love
talk to
you
you soon.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Dre. Well said. Eric, welcome back. He's a great guy, and she's a great lady.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely going to be different. Yeah, Al and Kim were a big staple of our business too. They're real close personal friends of Bruce as well. Bruce actually called me last week to let me know that she had passed. But yeah, Al, if you're listening, our condolences to you, my friend.
Yeah, just a good guy. And it goes back to what you were talking about earlier, though. I mean, the idea that you have made so many friends over there. I mean, the idea that, I love the question, how many times can I rebuild my engine? And after listening to you talk, I think I figured it out. The answer is, it depends.
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean that's really what it kind of comes down to. What we're talking about here is it an in or an out? Well, it depends. I mean, you don't know until you look at it. You don't know till you get around people you trust. And to me, and then we'll get to the nitty-gritty and the details, it often sounds like that you guys don't make that decision rashly, that really is about talking to as many expert voices as you can get around you before making that determination, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, when one of our techs pulls a cylinder head off, he will do an inspection on it, make his evaluation. He will grab the shop foreman, and he will do an inspection and make his evaluation. And then 9 times out of 10, they'll come and grab either myself or Brian, and we'll go out and make an evaluation too. So almost every time you're getting 3 sets of eyes on the same issue, and we're going to get together and make a sound decision. But yeah, unfortunately, like you said, an in-frame can turn into an out-of-frame, or even like a head gasket. You pull a cylinder head off and you go to think I got to change a head gasket. And then the first thing we do is we measure the liner protrusion. And if the liner protrusions are too low, there's no sense in doing just a head gasket, because we know it's not going to have enough clamping pressure on it to hold the gasket in place, and it's going to blow again. And liner protrusion is something that's very, very crucial to us. Every manufacturer has their tolerances. And what liner protrusion is, it's a distance that you measure from the top of the deck of the engine block to the top of the lip of the liner that slides down in there. And every engine manufacturer, like I said, has different tolerances. Now, I'm going to use Caterpillar just for instance for today's lesson. And Caterpillar says you have to have between 1 and 6 thousandths. So that liner lip needs to stick out of that block anywhere between 1 and 6 thousandths of an inch. The issue that everybody here has with that is, what do you think the clamping force is going to be between all of them at 1 thousandths or all of them at 6 thousandths? There's going to be a big swing on that, and there's a lot less clamping pressure at 1 thousandths. So what we do is we usually set them up for 7 thousandths. We make them actually 1 thousandths over the spec to give it that extra clamping pressure down on the head gasket. And we don't see the head gasket failures that a lot of other places do. And it's because of our background in racing and gearheads and just mechanical knowledge and capabilities that we've came up with this over the years, and it's worked. These are some of the trade things that we do that sets us apart. And we do them every single day. And when we have a radio show topic about stuff like this, I often forget, because to me, it's standard procedure. It's standard operating procedure every day in and out. But to somebody else that's never been through this or never heard of this, it's almost like magic. Like, wow, I never even thought about that, And there's different ways you can go about doing this too. Like on the head gasket particular, like Caterpillar offers 2 different deck plates. Because on a Caterpillar engine, you have the cylinder head, then you have a steel deck plate, and then you have the engine block itself. And they do offer one that's about 3 thousandths thinner. So if your liners are, let's say, at 3 thousandths, and you're kind of like right in the middle, and you're like, well, I'm right in the middle. Do I hold them? Do I fold them? What do I do here? And that's where this plate comes into play, because you can put that on there, and now you're back up to 6 thousandths. So you get that extra clamping pressure on the head gasket. But again, this is just stuff that's, I don't want to say it's not forgotten, but it's just, I get kind of callous to it because it's standard operating procedure. It's something that I'm very, very used to, and I have to stop and think about these things whenever we do the prepping for the shows, because it is what sets us apart, and a lot of people don't know that, and that's our job here, is to educate people on what we do and how we do it.
Well, the other thing is, too, is the fact that, and this is what's so interesting about these conversations and why I often stop, and I know it sounds so obvious, and I have to do it, too, because we'll be talking. There was one time that Bruce was on the show, and I understood everything he said, and I realized, wait a minute, I think Eric, myself, and about 20 truckers listening right now really know what the hell he's talking about. And I don't mean that, like, dismissively. It was beautiful what he's saying. But it's always kind of important to stop and remember, so many people who are doing this are getting involved for the first time or are just getting their feet wet. And it's so important because it makes for a better customer when they come in if they start to have that foundational conversational point with you, right?
Absolutely. I call it shifting gears, because I might talk to customer A about an oil sample, and the very next customer B that I talk to is about, hey, what's the timing on my big cam? Or I'm doing an in-frame and I need to know what you guys would set your, there's just so many different levels of people that we talk to every day. You constantly shifting gears. But again, that's what I enjoy. I never would have thrived at like a manufacturing job where I would have had to make the same widget every single day. I did that right out of high school, and it lasted about 2 months. I thought, this is not for me at all. This was like a prison.
Oh, by the way, that's a question I had for you. I mean, like I said, this is a little bit of a different episode, guys, so bear with us. It's like, it's new beginnings as we're kind of talking about, not just in terms of the topic, but in terms of the reality of Nemo Nation here. How, like I said, when you bring on somebody new, when you hire somebody new, how do you explain to them that everybody here doesn't blow jazz? I mean, everybody that works there blows jazz, but literally some people are just learning scales. And so one of the worst things you can do is you can turn off a customer instantly by burying them in technobabble or getting aggravated at them when they don't have a full grasp of everything that goes into what it is you guys do. How do you bring somebody along when you get a newbie in the shop?
That's a good question, actually.
Just being nice? I mean, just be nice?
Yeah, first thing I do is say good morning, but then we usually put them on a job that they feel comfortable with, and then we talk to them back and forth, and you really let them set the pace. Get a feel for where they're at, how comfortable they are, what kind of ideas they come at you with, what kind of questions they come at you with is a big thing with me, because I want to know, is he thinking in or outside of the box? Is he thinking about the job at hand or everything that's related to it? Is he thinking about what cause and effect that part has? Those are all things that go through my mind, and I want to try to make sure that everybody plays detective. We use that term so many times on the show, but that's what it is. I mean, when somebody comes to you with a problem, you have to play detective to figure out what caused the problem and how to make it better. We just recently did that with our parts lineup. The problem was for so long that the parts prices have been going up and up and up, and it just, not that the quality suffered. I mean, it is OEM. They make some really good stuff, but it's almost like that they really got a little bit too much out of hand. And I know Bruce had talked to Mark Chappell, who was head of the whole-set turbocharger division and actually invented the Tritech piston at Cummins. He was a corporate Cummins engineer his entire life, and he's a good personal friend of ours. Myself, too. He's great. I love Mark. He's a great guy. And Mark told Bruce one time, because Bruce had asked him the question about, why are these parts so expensive? And he said Cummins and well, all the manufacturers for that matter, they don't make their money off selling you the engine. They make their money off of the part sales and the repeat customer. And it's what we've seen over the years, and with everything since COVID, with the part supply. And even if we go back, this all started over 20 years ago now. We saw a big increase in the pricing whenever the first emissions engine started to come out back in 2003. And ever since then, they have really and steadily climbed up every single year. And now you look at some of these injectors out there for the truck that used to be $200, $300, $400 a piece. They're now $1,000 to $1,400 a piece. It's nothing to quote a guy a $10,000 service bill for a 6-pack of injectors, parts, and labor. It's just gotten really, really high. So that's where we've kind of shifted gears again, and we went with the aftermarket companies. A lot of our customers were asking for it for years, and we took it in consideration, but we just didn't feel that it was the right time. Now it is. We've done our due diligence. We've done our homework. We have 2 in-frames in the shop right now I'm doing with aftermarket parts. I've done 4 cylinder head changes, a couple sets of injectors. It's been really good quality, really good feedback from the customers. Everybody's very happy right now. I mean, it's just been a good fit overall. So that's where we've came out with what we call our PHD, Pittsburgh Heavy Duty line of parts. And it's a good economical choice for OEM alternatives. Sometimes OEM is the best choice. Sometimes it's not. But that's our job, is to offer you choices. And even related to today's topic of the rebuilds, that's the worst feeling in the world, is to feel trapped. When somebody brings a truck in and you have to give them the bad news where, they thought it was maybe just a head gasket or maybe just a slight oil leak or something else going on. Then you have to tell them, hey, look, your engine's just wore out. Here's what it's going to cost. Most people are pretty good with that. Some people are just not prepared for that. And that's why we like to give choices. And the PhD line of parts has really filled that gap that we had for that I'm able to save a lot of money for a lot of customers right now with them.
I'll tell you this, by the way, and one of the hardest things for people to understand who actually aren't in this business is, look, I mean, I had an old Cop Cruiser, 2001, old Cop Cruiser. Guy comes to me and he says, look, he said, I can replace your compressor, I can top you off, and it won't get cold until you actually start moving. He said it's $5,000 to replace the compressor. It's absolutely like $300 to top you off, and to kind of, I can make that call, no problem. I can be like, screw it, just top me off, don't worry about it. We're talking about people's livelihoods here. You can't mess around with that, can you? I mean, there's no like quick fixes here. You gotta fix it. There's no like, we'll patch you up. There's none of that nonsense that goes on. You can't do that.
That was something that I learned really fast 15 years ago. Was I'm used to working on cars and pickups in the automotive industry, and people drop off their car, you fix it, and you send it back. But in the meantime, they're going to their job. They're finding another way. Well, this doesn't work like that. This is your job. This is your livelihood. This is your everyday vehicle. So it's a lot different, because I never heard the term, downtime. I never heard that before. It just, you drop your car off, I fix it, I inspect it, and it's out the door. This is completely different, but this is just another way to fill that void for people. And we still offer OEM parts on everything as we did before, too. I don't want people to think that we're, shifting gears completely.
No.
It.
Well, actually, it makes a lot of sense, though, because basically you have to be aware of what the economy is, and you have to be aware of the fact that you still want to make sure people get back to work. So what we're saying here is, look, there's some great parts, but that being said, there's some ways we can do this that actually fits within your budget, or at least makes this not a backbreaker given the constraints of what's going on in the industry right now. You've got to be able to give customers those choices, because if you don't, you might shut them down. Or you might put them in a hole from which they never recover. Really quickly here, in lieu of a break, I want to say that Fastport solves America's toughest recruiting and workforce challenges through research, technology, and people. From registered apprentices to veteran readiness, learn more at fastport.com or nationalapprenticeship.org. We say that because the Fastport studios here are, in fact, paid for by our friends at Fastport. Really quickly, too, go to pittsburghpower.com. Some folks called in, Dre, and wanted to say congratulations to both Eric and myself. Who we got calling?
Oh, man, we had a few callers, but I only got 2 messages for you guys. Good old Horse Feathers there. Eric called in. He wanted to say hi, and he's loving a new platform for us, but he is driving a Pittsburgh Tune, and it's running excellent, he says. So don't know if you worked on that, Eric, but kudos to you, my friend.
Yeah.
I don't touch computers. It would be bad things. I'm a carburetor guy for a reason.
Well, hey, I understand that. Well, I got 2 more things. My good old buddy Packrat said he always loves listening to Pittsburgh Power. Good to hear it back on the old platform that we have here. And then lastly, we got to give some props to my brother Aaron. Eric, I feel like you and him would be 2 fellas that would get along very well.
I think so too.
Yeah, he's a mechanic as well. And I told him, I was like, check it out, see what you think, because I know the rest of the show is probably not his cup of tea. But I was like, hey, that last hour I think you'll dig. And he's listening to it. He's like, yeah, that guy knows a few things.
Yeah, we figured. I got a chance to meet Aaron this week, by the way, as we kind of cleared out the space over at Ocean Springs. And by the way, Eric, I'm going to have Dre send you some pictures of what the studio looks like now. These guys came in. This guy Mike, what's it called? 2 guys in a wrecker. What is it called? What's it called?
2 guys in a dump. Yeah.
What is it? It's called 2 guys in a dump,
yeah,
right?
2 guys in a dump.
And this guy called me up and he's like, "Yeah, I brought my dump in. I got rid of all that stuff for you, baby. Now pay me." So I got the invoice and I paid him, and it was pretty fantastic. What you got, Trey?
Look, man, I'm gonna give what's the word? What's the saying I'm looking for? I need shameless plug for.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, gig. If you need some work being done on the coast here, motorcycle or anything else side by side, you give Aaron a call or a Facebook message. Yeah. I'll get out of your hair.
We managed to get a little nepotism in there too, Eric. So if you want to work in anything for your kids, please, this is the moment to do it. Before we wrap up here, I want to give you time to kind of cover what else needs to be covered this morning. What else you got?
So I do want to stress about apples to apples and not apples to oranges. And what I mean by that one is people will call us and say, I need to get an estimate on an in-frame. Brian or myself will work up the estimate, we'll send it over, and we call them up, and they're just like, well, you're about $4,000 higher than the other guy. And that just usually doesn't happen until you really start to dig in and divulge the information. And I've asked people, what exactly were they quoting you on? Well, they're going to do pistons and rods and mains and liners and liner seals. Okay, are they doing the cylinder head? No. Are they doing the injectors? No. Okay, well, then it's not apples to apples. If that's the case, I'm going to be about $6,000 cheaper than that next guy. So make sure you're doing your homework. When you look at it, what constitutes an in-frame, what we consider constitutes an in-frame, is pistons, liners, gaskets, bearings, injectors, and a cylinder head. That's your typical in-frame. So make sure you're looking for those parts on your invoices or estimates whenever you're getting them. Another thing I do want to talk about is some of the stuff that sets us apart. Talked about was like the head gaskets and the liner protrusion. Another thing we offer is balancing the pistons to the rods. That's something that we divulged, is something that we actually came from our racing background. That's something we've used for a long time, and it's really worked very, very well on high RPM engines. Now, on these engines, they're not high RPM, but there's still a lot of stress, and you literally can feel the difference when you get into an engine that we built with balancing the rods to the pistons, and one that is just out of the box. Because we actually took a set of rods years ago and weighed them, and there was an astronomical difference between one and the other 5. And I want to say it was something to the tune of like 30 or 40 grams. And that's a lot of weight, especially when you're on a rotisserie. It's spinning around like that. It just throws the engine out of balance, and it's almost destined to fail right from the get-go. Another thing we do in-house is cutting counter bores. We can cut the upper counter bores, and sometimes we can even cut the lower counter bores too, depending on the situation. Again, it depends. That saying is very, very true. But we've done 2 this week, cutting upper counter bores to ensure that you do get a proper fitment on the liner protrusion and the liner seals. It's something that we really go the extra mile on because we want to do it once. We don't want to do this twice. Nobody wants to do a rebuild twice. We want to make sure that you get the best quality and the best fitment and the best price. And that's why we offer so many different options. The last thing that I was going to talk about too was downtime. In frames and out of frames, a lot of people ask me which one's right for me, and I tell them an in frame doesn't pick you, an out of frame does. And what I mean by that is an in frame, you can schedule that. If you're on a dedicated route and let's say you're pushing around 1 million miles, you can decide like, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to take a vacation in September. Let's schedule this truck to get rebuilt up there. That's good. But sometimes you don't get that lucky. And the difference between the downtime can be a big decision maker as well. An in-frame on a typical truck, you could be looking anywhere between a week to 2 weeks, just depending on what engine and what truck configuration. An out-of-frame with a machine shop involved, you're probably looking about 4 to 6 weeks. And a lot of it depends on the machine shop, their backlog. We use a very, very good, reputable company, but they're busy for a reason. So sometimes we have to factor that. And even a third option, too, is a 3/4 engine. We did a lot of those in the Detroits because when the gliders were really popular, even when I came on here, we worked on a lot of gliders out there with a lot of Detroits and Cat and Cummins and everything. But there was a lot of Detroits out there. And there was one glider manufacturer that built a ton of them. And the way that they built them, they recycled a lot of parts. They used a lot of used parts in their engines. So we would get a truck in our shop with, say, 200,000 or 300,000 miles on it, and it had a bad head gasket. And we would pull the head gasket off, and just the lower end was just, it was gone. I mean, there was no saving it at all. And we still see that from time to time on a lot of the Series 60s, like the 12.7s, because that engine's been out of production for over 20 years now.
Yep.
That's an old block. And when people call me with a 20 to 30-year-old engine, we try to ask all the questions we can, like how many times has it been rebuilt? Has it been cut before? Sometimes they know it, sometimes they don't. And like on a Detroit deck surface, you can only cut it once. There's a little like embossing on the top of the block towards the front that is kind of like a tread depth gauge. Like you would look at your tires to see how much tread you have left. This
Eric?
is to let you know how much surface of material you have left.
Eric, we are out of time, man, because we start earlier. I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you, man. I am so thrilled that you could take this first ride with us, brother. Just absolutely adore having you guys on the air. By the way, I have an old mechanic friend of mine. I can't get it out of my head. Every time somebody says liner protrusion, he always would sing the song Wall of Confusion and substitute those words. He would always be like, liner protrusion. Eric Moser, of course, thank you so much for making time with us this morning. We really appreciate it, brother. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you for having us.
You got it. PittsburghPower.com.
Listening to you guys on YouTube radio, and then I switched over to Live 365 radio, and you guys sound great on the front porch.
Hey, by the way, everybody should hit those hearts for our good friend Kim. Everybody who's listening on any kind of streaming platform, just hit those hearts in celebration of her life. We'd love you guys to do that. Dave, this is it. That's it.
Yeah.
We're done. We actually got one in the books. We are rolling.
This is one for the books.
This is one for the books. I got to tell you, I dig what's happening. We're going to have another show tomorrow. Radio Nemo is actually going to premiere Road Gang Radio. You might stop in and cause some mischief on your side of the equation. Always good having you. And, of course, it means at 9 o'clock, our good friend Lindsay Lawler is going to be dropping in and take us down the road a little bit. Another good lineup. Please check us out at radionemo.com. Check us out on the Book of Face over at the Dave Nemo Show. Please check us out everywhere that Nemo is present. Brother, have you enjoyed yourself?
Really has been a lot of fun. It's like futuristic and old home week all at the same time.
This place feels really old school, doesn't it?
It really does. Well, it is old school.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, and it feels this way, by the way, which, of course, is Raymond Lowry's brilliant idea of if you want to take people into the future, make them feel like they're going someplace in the past. All of that is possible because of Fastport. They solve America's toughest recruiting and workforce challenges through research, technology, and people. From registered apprenticeships to veteran readiness, you can learn more at fastport.com or nationalapprenticeship.org. Hey, Phone Master Dre, did you have a good time, brother?
Boy, did I have a good time.
You look good, dude.
Oh, thanks,
We're
man.
all dressed up. By the way, Brad Bentley came by, took some photos. You guys can see us in our nattiness. We're all in our nattiness. I've got a little natty Road Gang pin. Guys, by the way, go over to the Book of Face or the tweets and the twits, the grams of Insta, and get those Road Gang pins. What's up, brother?
Man, I'm wearing my gym shorts tomorrow. This is just for the first day. What you talking about?
Oh, come on, man. Come on, man. We gotta keep it natty, brother. We gotta keep it natty.
We gotta wear matching shirts like him.
We should. By the way, if you guys want bowling shirts, Nemo bowling shirts, you should write a letter to weekends@radionemo.com and just at the beginning put bowling shirts in there. Maybe we'll get that going on, a little merch.
Yeah, extra money. You got to pay a little extra if you want the sweat of Dave Nemo in it. All right.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
He has not broke a sweat since he started this morning. By the way, isn't it much better when people are here?
Yeah, 100%. It's good to actually have a body in the room.
It's crazy, man. It's just like to have people in here and have it not be like on location, and to have you here is like the best experience in the world.
Stop it.
No, I'm telling you, man. By the way, Lindsay Lou's been listening. Our good friend, the Turtle, Touchdown Turtle, has been listening. Donna Howell has been listening. Lots of friends.
And the kids?
And the kids.
Apparently, we got to get you on a Sleep Time podcast.
We got to get you on a Sleep Time podcast. You know, we actually are going to have the boys from HP Podcraft. They love Ray Bradbury, and I have told them point blank, if anybody should ever read Ray Bradbury, it's Dave Nemo.
Really?
Oh, my God, you'd be perfect for Bradbury. You'd be
That is
like,
nice of you to say that.
Pete Bradbury. What you got, Dre?
Oh, I was just telling you we had 1 minute.
We got a minute left?
Yeah.
What the
50
heck
seconds
happened,
now.
by the way? Big thanks to Elizabeth Barner. Big thanks to Dan Roden. Big thanks to Dean Croak. Big thanks to Mike Lutzenkirchen. Big thanks to John Esparza. Big thanks to Jamie Jones. Big thanks to... let's see how many people I can actually remember. It's been crazy, man.
Alex Nino.
Alex Nino. By the way, Alex, please promote us. Please, Alex. We could use 1/10 of those folks. I would be happy with 1/10 of those folks right now. I got big plans. Dre, by the way, as Mark likes to say, although he couldn't get on this morning, get us out of here.
That I can do.
Well, that's... there you are. Some hometown music.
From the city of New Orleans, this has been Nemo Nation coming at you live. We'll be on all the apps and all the fun stuff soon. I made that sound for this recording.